Hey there, I'm Brian, aka Pikachu Clone, and having been a lifetime Pokemon fan, it's a bit surprising that the only challenges I've ever attempted are like 2 Nuzlockes, so I decided I want to start doing more Pokemon challenges. For my first Pokemon challenge, I want to do a Pokemon Platinum starter only run. Going into this, I decided I want to choose the starter with the lowest base stat total, and while Chimchar does have the lowest out of the 3, something I found out is the order for most base stat total is reversed in the starter's final evolutions. Turtwig has the highest base stat total, while Chimchar has the lowest, but Torterra has the lowest while Infernape has the highest, with Piplup and Empoleon obviously being in the middle. I don't know why, but I just find that interesting. Anyways, I'm pretty excited to get this started, so without further ado, let's begin. Right off the bat, rules. Only Chimchar for battles, no using items in battle, including held items, other than Pokeballs to catch HM Pokemon. No using save states during a battle to manipulate RNG. And finally, I've decided to implement a rule for the Elite Four, if I can make it that far, where I can only heal before every other battle and before Cynthia, since I'm almost certain I'm going to need full health for Cynthia to even have a chance at beating her. Before we begin, if at any point throughout this challenge you find yourself enjoying this and or have fun watching, leave a like and or subscribe if you want to see more content similar to this in the future. Firstly, I boot up the game, only to remember I was playing for fun on my free time, so I had to Google how to reset the save file. We take Chimchar and beat up our rival to officially begin the challenge. Looking at Chimchar's moveset, I decide to max out attack EVs, put only 150 EVs into special attack, and put the 100-ish remaining EVs into speed. The reason I'm doing this is because while I would love for our Chimchar to be faster than most things, since he'll be pretty squishy, Flamethrower is a no-brainer, but Chimchar can also learn a lot of great physical moves that aren't fire-type for coverage. And since they aren't fire-type, that means they don't get the same type attack bonus, or stab, damage bonus that Flamethrower does, which is why I'm maxing out his attack, and splitting the rest of the EVs into special attack and speed, instead of just maxing out either attack or special attack and speed. I decided to start off EV training and attack, since it's the easiest because I only have to vaguely pay attention since I can't accidentally put too many points into attack. I want to save EV training speed for last, because I'd rather accidentally miss out a little on some speed EVs than special attack EVs, and since there aren't any Pokemon that give special attack EVs up to this point in the game, I think we're going to have to get some unnecessary EVs before we start training special attack. While EV training, I remembered that we're going to need HM Pokemon anyways, so I go ahead and catch a Bidoof, since he can learn a few HMs, and Starly for Fly and Defog. Starly started taking a bit too many attempts to catch, so I send in Bidoof to do some damage to Starly so I can catch it. And while it's not a big deal since it's just a wild Starly, I'm glad I still didn't catch the Starly with the bit of damage my Bidoof did do to it, because while I didn't realize it until going back the third time, that is technically not using only Chimchar in battle. It's a good thing that we ran out of Pokeballs, had to run from the battle, Bidoof got crit on in the second Starly battle, and by the third battle, I realized I shouldn't be using Bidoof, and we managed to catch it on the first try without doing any damage to it. Wow, that was a bit of a roller coaster given it's just a Starly. Anyways, I also have a bit of forethought and decide to move Leer to the first move slot on Chimchar, just in case I mindlessly spam A on some Bidoofs. So after maxing out Chimchar's attack, and unintentionally grinding to level 20, we head onward to Jubilife. Also, I guess at some point my counting got way off, because I was only counting around 175 attack EVs when we actually got maxed out on attack. I figured we might be behind the actual amount by 25 or even 50, because I lose track sometimes when EV training, but I did not think I would be behind by a whole 75 plus. So that's a little bit of time wasted, but we carry on anyways, heading to Jubilife and getting our shiny new Poketch before going right back to grinding. This time, we're grinding Bidoof for special attack EVs, but I forgot they can have the poison point ability where if I land a physical attack I have a chance of getting poisoned. And I made Chimchar forget Ember, so I'm forced to just risk getting poisoned each time. After the first poison, we go back to the Pokemon Center to heal, but that resets the power points on Flame Wheel, which I'm using to keep track of how many Bidoof we fainted. So we go spend all the money on antidotes, only being able to afford 9, and hope that's enough. I go ahead and assume that we've fainted 3 Bidoof before healing at the Pokemon Center, getting Flame Wheel's power points down to 3 before going to heal once again, and grinding accordingly from there. During the grind, I come up with a backup plan just in case we run out of antidotes, and I get to test it out because during the last 25 Badoo, we use our last antidote. The plan? Just look in different directions while staying in the same patch of grass. It turns out, this actually does allow us to encounter Pokemon without triggering poison damage outside of battle, so we're able to finish off the grind, fainting off a few extra Badoo just in case I'm off by a couple EVs. Now for the last bit of grinding for a while for speed EVs on Magikarp. Luckily, Magikarp has a 100% encounter with an Old Rod here, so we don't have to do much running from battles, and since we only need 100 speed EVs, this should be a pretty easy grind. I don't want to be over-leveling the whole game, so after this grind, I'm going to be avoiding battles as much as I can until hitting a wall where we virtually can't win a necessary battle. About a third of the way through grinding the Magikarp, I remember that there's Zubat in the cave nearby, so I decide to go check there, only to realize it's more efficient to be grinding speed EVs on those since they appear a lot more often than Magikarp appears from each throw of the fishing rod. Finally, the EV training is over. These are my Chimchar stats at level 26. Now it's time for the real fun to begin. So I will see you in a couple hours because John Stone is streaming and he's about to potentially finally beat his Pokemon son Nuzlocke. He has been on this Nuzlocke since the beginning of December 2020, if I'm remembering correctly, and this is his 48th run, so I'm really rooting for him to win this one. If for some reason you've found my channel before John's, I've been watching his main channel since 2018 and started watching his streams and highlights during late 2020, so I recommend watching his stuff and joining his streams because they're a lot of fun. I'll leave links to his Twitch and YouTube channels down below. Not gonna spoil anything, just wow. Anyways, we begin to head off to Orberg City before realizing that I actually forgot our shiny new Poketch, so we have to go talk to the Poketch guy. He's probably wondering why it's taken several hours to find 3 clowns that are close to each other. Then we make our way to Orberg, dodging every trainer we can and taking on Rourke. We beat him first try. Honestly, I know Chimchar is over 10 levels higher than all of Rourke's Pokemon, but I didn't think we'd be able to take down his Cranidos so easily. We got a lucky crit on Geodude, and while Onix would have probably been the most difficult, we managed to burn Onix to have his attack, so had he gotten more hits in, it probably wouldn't have mattered. But making our way back through Jubilife, Team Galactic decides to be a minor inconvenience, and because we ran into a couple trainers on our way back to Jubilife, the Galactic battle gets Chimchar to level 27 as we head off to Floroma Town, only accidentally taking one unnecessary battle. We fight a Galactic Grunt who's a sore loser and hides inside, making us go fight 2 more Galactic Grunts to get the key to open the locked door. I also decide to catch a Magikarp in case of double battles, but then I realize that there aren't any necessary double battles where we're forced to have more than one Pokemon, I think. So I just got a Magikarp for no reason. I use our newly acquired Magikarp to do nothing. But we fight Mars and our Chimchar gets another level up as Mars sends out her Purugly. It's not a difficult battle as you might imagine. However, I was a bit concerned at the damage Chimchar's Flame Wheel wasn't really doing to Purugly. But then I realized it probably has Thick Fat which halves the damage from Fire and Ice type moves. So while I am looking forward to the enemy levels catching up, for now, we're still very strong. I just want to apologize for running into any unnecessary trainer battles. Anytime I play Pokemon casually, I like to pretty much fight all the trainers in the game if they're not out of the way, so I'm really not used to trying to dodge trainers, and I don't want to load a save state even though I make one often, just to dodge a trainer, because that feels wrong to me for some reason, so I'll keep trying to just avoid them as best I can. I've done a fairly decent job, at least so far. But we go through Eterna Forest and on to Eterna City, where we challenge Gardenia, the second gym leader. She uses all grass Pokemon, so even though our level gap is below 10 levels now for her highest level Pokemon, it's nice to know that we shouldn't have any trouble with grass types in the future, because while I want challenge, I still want to be able to sweep a few Pokemon here and there. After a good night's rest, I hop back into the game, running around for a little bit before stumbling into the story progression. It's been a long time since I've played Pokemon Platinum. Nevertheless, Cynthia gives us cut where we enter one of the galactic hideouts and notice a double battle. We walk outside only to realize that the trees reappear, and I really don't want to teach Chimchar cut, so we just do the double battle and hope that they don't knock out our Magikarp. Luckily, they don't use a single attack on him, so Chimchar is able to sweep all of their Pokemon. And that's when I realized the key to getting to the top floor correctly isn't stairs having trainers in front of them. The key is to go up the stairs that have the notes next to them. Which means that we did that double battle for nothing. Anyways, we make it to the top floor where we battle Jupiter, and also witness our first brutal loss. She sends out her Zubat, which isn't an issue, but then she sends out her Skuntank. We use a Flame Wheel to do a little more than a third of its health, but it gets a critical Night Slash on us, which easily takes down Chimchar, giving us our first faint. So we load back up the last save state, which is right after the double battle, and we give it another attempt. This attempt goes a lot better, as Skuntank doesn't open with Night Slash. He instead opts for Smokescreen. In fact, he doesn't use a single attacking move, so we take him out in 3 Flame Wheels this time. Before heading to our next location, we retrieve a bike, and an egg from Cynthia that I will hatch for the sake of releasing so it can go live out its life. We go forward on our adventure, coming across a double battle that is actually necessary this time, except that as I'm typing the script, I'm realizing that I could have talked to them one at a time to avoid having a double battle. Man, I am just so not used to not running right through every trainer's line of sight. But we managed to use only Chimchar to battle anyways. One of the trainers seems to be doing a Chimchar only run of her own. Maybe she's good enough to avoid trainers like I'm not. Magikarp immediately faints, and I debate having Bidoof attack our Chimchar, but I decide to just waste X items on Bidoof instead, since it can be argued that using attacking moves on our Chimchar could lead to Chimchar getting just low enough to activate his Blaze ability. We could have used Growl on Chimchar with Starly, but I just decided to use more X items, since we can't use them on Chimchar anyways. Upon arrival at Hearthome City, I decide to do a little bit of research, and it seems that while Chimchar can learn a lot of great physical moves, he can't learn those until later in the game, and we currently don't have anything to deal with the rock types. So I decide to go ahead and teach Chimchar Rock Smash, because by the time Chimchar is able to learn better moves that can replace Rock Smash, we'll already have access to the move deleter. Is what I would have said if I didn't realize that he can also learn Grass Knot, which will not only help with our rock weakness, but it will also be mostly great against water types. On that note, we head to the Hearthome City gym where we take on Fantina. It's apparent as soon as we get to Mismagius that we can no longer just Flame Wheel everything without getting lucky with crits. We do get lucky on the first attempt, critting Duskull for a one-shot. Haunter doesn't do much damage to us, but then we keep having the same issue. Mismagius is faster than us. On the third attempt, we get close having her Mismagius start off with Confuse Ray instead of Shadow Ball, but we get a low roll on the first Flame Wheel and hit ourselves in confusion on the second Flame Wheel, taking us out. On the fourth attempt, I consider switching up our strategy. On Duskull, we set up 3 nasty plots and take her out with Flame Wheel, because for some reason I figured Duskull would be the lightest, but as I find out, Duskull is actually the heaviest out of the 3. We try out Grass Knot on Haunter, since she's the lightest and resist, just to get a feel for how much a weak Grass Knot will do when boosted with 3x nasty plots for future reference. On the 5th attempt, we're able to make it to Haunter with minimal damage sustained, and since Haunter opens with Confuse Ray, this could potentially be our chance to make it to Mismagius with practically full health. Unfortunately, we hit ourselves in confusion, bringing us to Mismagius with really low health, so we faint once again. On the 8th attempt, we get a crit on Haunter to one-shot her while we're still at almost full health, which is great because up to this point, I have yet to try out Grass Knot on Mismagius. But then Mismagius crits us right back and one-shots us. I'm determined not to start grinding until I can at least use Grass Knot once on Mismagius, just to see how much it does. On the 16th attempt, we finally make it to Mismagius, and because she leads with Confuse Ray, we manage to finally use Grass Knot. The saddest part is that it crit and did about the same as Flame Wheel does normally. So if we had used Flame Wheel and crit on it, we would have won on the spot. Luckily, we live a Shadow Ball, so now could finally be the time to finish her off with Flame Wheel. So now is finally the time to grind some levels. I remember that Chimchar learns Flamethrower at level 41, so I decide that'll be a good stopping point since just one nasty plot combined with Flamethrower will make it an easy victory for sure, even if we don't outspeed. But just for fun, I decide I'll give the gym another shot at levels 36 and 38 once anyways. During the grind, Togepi hatches out of the egg, and we name it Freedom and promptly release it. At level 39, we have the opportunity to learn Slack Off, and while that would be nice to have since we can't use items on Chimchar, if we need to heal, it's likely that we're getting 1 or 2 shot anyways, so it doesn't seem worth it over Nasty Plot in my opinion. We can always set up Nasty Plots on weak Pokemon to one-shot the tough Pokemon, but healing on weak Pokemon will just delay the inevitable. It ends up being a decision that we don't have to commit to yet though, as on the level 36 Fantina attempt, we beat her first try. I really was not expecting to outspeed Miss Magius at only 3 levels higher, but we one-shot both Duskull and Haunter with Flame Wheel now. And we outspeed Miss Magius, so 2 Flame Wheels takes her down pretty easily. I felt like there might be a chance at level 36 or 38, but I wasn't expecting to outspeed, so I'm pretty glad we don't have to start relying on Flamethrower just yet, because I'm expecting Flamethrower and Nasty Plot to be able to carry us for a while once we do get it. Also, I was wondering why the teleport pad's there if just leaving Fantina's door leads us right back to the first door anyways, but I realized that the teleport pad also leads back to Fantina's room. I still don't understand why you would want to go back after beating her, though, since there's not really any point. Regardless, we head onward, meeting with Barry on the way, and we faint once due to Staravia using Double Team, which causes us to miss Flame Wheel twice, taking enough damage to be finished off with a quick attack. On the second attempt, we don't miss Flame Wheel this time, so we take down Staravia pretty easily. Prinplup is up next, and while Bubble Beam gets us low, we're able to beat Prinplup with 2 Grass Knots. Ponyta luckily does no damage, so even with our low health, Ponyta isn't much of a bother. Finally is Roselia, and even though our attack is down from Staravia's Intimidate, with Roselia taking 2x damage from fire combined with our low health causing Blaze to be in effect, it goes down pretty easily. That was surprisingly difficult. I mean, it only took 2 attempts, but I wasn't expecting it to take more than 1, especially with it being that close. After doing another double battle, this one is actually unavoidable as far as I'm aware, I come up with a plan to avoid making note of every single unimportant double battle that I come across. Anytime we have to do a double battle, I'll just make sure our other Pokemon have fainted. That way we don't have to go all the way back to the Pokemon Center, deposit them in the PC, do the battle, run back to the Pokemon Center, get our Pokemon out of the PC, and then head back to where we were. I also realized that it's not enough to just not have our Pokemon attack. They also can't be drawing attacks away from Chimchar, because that is technically helping him. So while I can't undo our previous 2 double battles, I can still undo this one. So I reload our save state, go faint our other Pokemon, then don't do the double battle because I forgot the twins won't do double battles if you don't have more than 1 Pokemon capable of battling anyways. At Solaceon Town, we make a quick stop to get the seal case, and affix a capsule to Chimchar's Pokeball, because I never got the chance to do this as a kid because I don't think I ever knew about it, and I find them really fun and cool. We also get defog so Starly can finally have a purpose. On Route 215, there's this trainer battle where we get one-shot by a Buizel's Aqua Jet. I don't know if the rain powered it up enough to where it would make a difference, but we win pretty easily the second time as Buizel decides to use Pursuit this time. Then we're forced into a battle immediately after because I'm dumb, and we lose to low health. After a couple more attempts, I realize we can live Aqua Jet pretty fine for the most part, but if Gligar hits us with a Screech, our chances of winning against Drifblim are low. Because we can one-shot Gligar with a single Grass Knot as long as we use Nasty Plot once, my plan is to Nasty Plot first round with Gligar until he doesn't hit us with Screech, or we get lucky and Buizel goes for Pursuit instead, and then use 2 more Nasty Plots on Drifblim to 2-shot it. Which is exactly what happens on the next attempt. But unfortunately, Drifblim is a big issue depending on what it decides to do, so on the next attempt, I decide we'll forfeit anytime Buizel gets us into red health, because that means we lose to Drifblim, even if we beat it because of its aftermath. I know what we have to do though, so I replace Facade with Shadow Claw. It almost goes great with Buizel using Pursuit instead of Aqua Jet, and Shadow Claw almost one-shotting Drifblim. An Ominous Wind doesn't hurt quite enough for Aftermath to take us out, but unfortunately Drifblim gets the Omni boost, which allows it to outspeed us with another Ominous Wind, leaving us at 3 HP. That's a little unfortunate, but this is more doable than before. After a few more attempts, I decide to just start forfeiting if Gligar starts with Screech, just so we're not here all day since I want to avoid getting level 41 for as long as I can. This is still just a random trainer battle, by the way, in case you've forgotten. Finally, after several more attempts, Gligar uses Feint Attack, Buizel uses Pursuit, and the one time that Drifblim can use Ominous Wind on us and we can live, barring a crit or Omni boost, it goes for Stockpile, and we finish it off, making that battle look like a joke, when in reality, it took us 21 tries. That's insane! This random trainer took us more attempts than Fantina. After arriving at Veilstone, we go retrieve Dig just in case we need it later, and we run down to Route 213, where we also retrieve the TM for Aerial Ace, since we're about to take on Maylene's fighting gym. I decide to replace Grass Knot, since we can go get Thunder Punch right after this, which we can replace Shadow Claw with, since it'll be good not only on Crasher Wake's Water Gym, but since most things that are weak to Ghost moves, Psychic type and Ghost type Pokemon, also have bad physical defense, it should still work just about as well as Shadow Claw, barring increased crit ratio. On the way to the move tutor for Thunder Punch, we run into a few trainers, but nothing noteworthy happens, aside from we hit level 40, and also Meryl... maybe it's just me, but I think it looks kind of like it needs a few more hours of sleep. Finally arriving at the move tutor's house, I realize we're very short on shards. Thunder Punch needs 6 blue shards and 2 red shards, and we only have 2 blue shards and 0 red shards. So I decide to go to the underground and mine for the shards we need. After about maybe 40 minutes, we get 2 red shards and only 1 blue shard, so I decide to see if there are any easy methods of getting blue shards, and apparently, you're just given blue shards when entering the Great Marsh, which is in Pastoria City, so I decide it's worth walking back. Upon entering the Great Marsh, I discover that I clearly misunderstood something, because we're not immediately given a blue shard. Upon further inspection, it seems we only have a chance of getting a blue shard each day from this person. Well, back to the underground we go. So after running around for about another hour, we find a total of 2 more blue shards, meaning we now only need 2 more blue shards, but I can't seem to find any more mineable spots, so we have to hunt for more of those. I did find out though that if you tap the bottom screen, it shows exactly where we can mine. If it's not obvious, I basically never used the underground as a kid. You might be wondering why I'm putting all this effort in for a move that might end up being useless. It's pretty simple. I just really like it as a move. It's cool. Plus, I already replaced Grass Knot, so we need it now anyways for Crasher Wake. We head back to the move tutor while we search for more blue shards. On the way, we run into a few more trainers, so Chimchar learns Flamethrower over Flame Wheel. After arriving, we head to the underground where I discover that you cannot infinitely mine in the underground. So in my quest to truly understand the underground, I actually do so much running around that we find a shiny Bronzor. If that doesn't tell you how determined I am for this unnecessary task, I don't know what will. But, after a while, I do finally give up on my hopes and dreams. Of solving the mystery of the underground, that is. How dare you think for a second that I would give up, when we're only 1 blue shard away from getting Thunder Punch? Speaking of which, we did find 2 more blue shards in the underground during my, 4-hour expedition. Remember how I misunderstood that you have a chance of getting a blue shard from the Great Marsh each day? Well, there is a spot in the northeastern sector that has a blue shard, so we go to the marsh. Check the daily guy first, and he actually has a blue shard this time, so we take that, head all the way back to the move tour, and finally teach Chimchar Thunder Punch. Yeah, it is absolutely not worth the 4+ hours I spent. But even though I struggled, I had fun in the end, and you get to question my sanity. Anyways, it's finally time to take on Maylene's gym, and I easily sweep all the trainers with Aerial Ace, so it's time for Maylene herself. Meditite and Machoke are pretty easy, but oh no, we can't use Aerial Ace on Lucario since he's part Steel. Too bad we're not a fire-type Pokemon with Flamethrower Stab. Oh, he crit a Drain Punch on us, which faints Chimchar. Okay then, my bad. Guess I'll tone down the sass. Second attempt goes much better. Machoke still takes 2 hits, but he goes for a Focus Energy this time instead of Rock Throw, so our speed isn't lowered, which means we get to attack first when Lucario is out, and Flamethrower takes him out in 1 hit. Only 1 badge left, and then I'm gonna call it a night, because all that mining was exhausting. But first we have to help Dawn get her Pokédex back, which is really easy. Also, we get Fly. That would have been nice to know when I was running around back and forth trying to come up with a plan to get blue shards and also trying to get the underground to make more mining spots appear. I'm not actually complaining because at the end of the day, it really was my decision, but I do find it funny that what'll probably end up being one of the things that takes the longest time to complete is something completely optional. We teach Fly to Starly and soar on to Pastoria City. Arriving at the gym, Barry challenges us, where once again, he knocks us out twice. Intimidate really is a brutal ability. So I make an executive decision. For some reason, Chimchar can learn Swords Dance, so we head back to Veilstone, retrieve the coin case, and go Wait, what? What the hell? That's great. Man, this game is really ahead of its time just from that one line. Anyways, we don't go gamble. We instead do the responsible thing and blow all our money on coins instead, allowing us to get the TM for Swords Dance and replace Nasty Plot with it. This time, we easily faint after another 2 tries, because the first time, I accidentally used Thunder Punch instead of Aerial Ace after Staravia uses Double Team, and the second time, Staravia crits on us with a Wing Attack, bringing us down low enough for it to take us out with Quick Attack. On the 3rd try though, Staravia decides to just spam Double Team, so we set up 4 Swords Dances and proceed to annihilate his team. Now we can finally take on Crasher Wake's gym. All the trainers are once again easy, but they used up most of our power points for Thunder Punch, and I don't want to walk back to the Pokemon Center, so I just try out the fight once to see if our lack of power points is even an issue or not. But after 2 attempts, it's looking like we might just have to grind. Gyarados one-shots us without question with its Waterfall, and since it has Intimidate, even with its 4x weakness to Electric, we still need at least 1 Swords Dance or a crit at this level to one-shot Gyarados. On the 8th attempt, we managed to fully paralyze Gyarados on the first Thunder Punch, which allows us to take him out without him getting a hit on us. Unfortunately, Crasher Wake's second Pokemon is Quagsire, and it lowers our speed with Mudshot, and then takes us out the following turn. So that means it's time to grind once again. During the level 50 grind, we go back and fight trainers we dodged earlier, and a few of those are double battles, and we have to have more than 1 Pokemon to be able to fight a couple of those. So we send in Bidoof, and don't use him to attack of course, but he takes 2 or 3 total attacks away from Chimchar. None of them are from any strong Pokemon or from any water, ground, or rock moves, so hopefully that doesn't matter. Regardless, we try Crasher Wake again, and not only do we one-shot Gyarados now, we can handle 2 speed drops from Quagsire without being slower than him, but seeing as Floatzel is his last Pokemon, our best bet of winning at this level is probably Quagsire using only Rock Tomb and missing all of them, but we'll give it at least a few more shots before we grind more. On the very next attempt, we learn that we don't actually one-shot Gyarados on a low roll, so if that becomes big enough of an issue, we'll just go grind more for sure. After a few more attempts, I realize that Aerial Ace almost 2-shots Quagsire if Chimchar uses only a single Swords Dance, so if we grind a couple more levels, we might be able to make it to Floatzel if Quagsire uses Rock Tomb during either of those first 2 turns and misses it. At level 52, I'm ready to see the viability of the plan, but Quagsire actually leads with Yawn for some reason, so we lose that one as you may have guessed. He doesn't lead with Yawn this time, but we're still just short of being able to 2-shot him with a Swords Dance. We're gonna have to grind a bit more. I'm gonna go for 2 more levels, give the gym a few more shots, and then take a break for the morning, since it is about to be 1 AM. In the middle of grinding, it dawns on me that maybe I should have waited just a little bit to get rid of Grass Knot. Obviously that information is currently useless, however, I did come up with another idea during the grind to level 54. So I put the grind on a hiatus to go test out the new strategy. When we were grinding, we came across some wild Quagsire, so I tried out a flamethrower just out of curiosity, and it did either just above half or right at half, but since it's raining in the spot where the Quagsire are, that means flamethrower is weakened. So even though Crasher Wake's Quagsire is higher level, there's no rain to weaken flamethrower's damage. So for strategy number 2, we can flamethrower once, hope it burns, and if he uses Rock Tomb and it lands, it'll do less damage. We try for a Sword Stance on the first attempt of this strategy, just because I'm almost certain we will need at least one Sword Stance to take out Floatzel, but it doesn't go great, so we'll save the Sword Stance part for later. Let's test out Flamethrower some more. On the second attempt, we take out the Quagsire with 2 Flamethrowers as planned, getting us to Floatzel with green health. 1 speed drop from Mudshot in the Quagsire battle still leaves us slower than Floatzel, unfortunately. However, we are able to just barely survive a brine, which means we get to test out Thunder Punch's damage with 1 attack drop from Intimidate. And it turns out that yes, we don't one-shot him, but it does seem like if we can manage to get 1 Sword Stance during Quagsire, or get Floatzel fully paralyzed on his second turn, or a crit on Thunder Punch, obviously, we might be able to do this without having to grind more. Sure, there are more luck factors at play, but that means there's a better chance of one of those luck factors playing out. 2 more tries later, and not only do we live another brine, we're able to paralyze Floatzel, but he isn't fully paralyzed on the next turn, so he just uses Aqua Jet to finish us off. We have to keep trying. On the very next attempt, we almost get really lucky with Quagsire going for Rock Throw first turn, and missing, giving us the turn we need to get off a Sword Stance. I accidentally had my recording paused during that time while I was typing here in my notes, but I did notice, so you can see here based on Quagsire's health, Chimchar's health, and the amount of power points left that this is what happened. But instead of going for an attacking move the next turn, Quagsire goes for Yawn. The reason I didn't just use another Flamethrower and go to Floatzel at full health is because Floatzel still outspeeds us even without a speed drop on us, as I had expected and found out for sure a few attempts later. On the 27th total attempt, well, I'll let the footage speak for itself. If you're a fan of Pokemon and you find yourself getting bored with the games, I implore you to try out one of these solo challenges if you haven't already, because wow. This is my first time doing one of these challenges, and it actually makes the games really exciting for me again. I haven't had this much fun in a Pokemon game in a long time. When Quagsire's Mudshot dropped us to 81 HP, I was a bit nervous on whether or not we would live a brine, and maybe he got a low roll, but we live regardless, using our Thunder Punch that we were finally able to boost with Sword Stance, knocking him out in 1 hit. Honestly, I'm not sure Thunder Punch still would have knocked out Floatzel with a low roll, but Floatzel does faint either way, winning us our 5th gym badge, and earning me a restful sleep. It's 2 AM by the way. Man, I really forgot just how crazy Barry is. Anyways, on the way to Celestic Town, I decide to give Cook, the name of our Chimchar by the way, a taste of evolution before reminding him that he's not allowed to evolve. I also forgot to mention that at some point, we caught a B-Barrel for surfing, and also Starly evolved into Staravia from getting experience by being in a double battle. So here's the footage for those 2 things. Once at Celestic Town, we mop the floor with Cyrus and are given the HM for Surf, which we teach to B-Barrel so he can take us to Canalave City. Just a quick update, these are our Chimchar stats at level 55. They're not bad for sure, but just for reference, I decided to save, use a rare candy on Chimchar to evolve him, and show you even just Monferno's stats at this level. Obviously I reload my save since this is still a Chimchar only challenge, but you can see how much power we're missing out on from Cook just being Chimchar. Barry interrupts us on our way to the gym to test our strength, but we get pretty lucky with Staraptor missing the first turn and going for double team the second turn, letting us set up 2 free Sword Stances. I decide to risk a Thunder Punch, deciding Aerial Ace probably won't knock out Staraptor with our attack raised only 3 stages, and we manage to land it, allowing us to sweep the rest of his Pokemon. As we enter the Canalave City gym, I contemplate replacing something with Dig, because while Steel is weak to fire, there are Pokemon like Steelix who are part ground, but I immediately check the type matchup chart just to double check, and realize that ground doesn't resist fire. Rock does resist fire though, and I often get rock and ground confused. Having been playing these games since I was 4, you'd think I'd know all my type matchups, and while I do know most of them, there are still 324 total type matchups to remember, as a fairy type being introduced in Gen 6. While that does bring me a little bit of solace, fire is still weak to both rock and ground, so I am a little wary. We sweep all the trainers' Pokemon as usual, but we use most of our power points on Flamethrower in the process. I once again decide to just go for it as we arrive at Gym Leader Byron. Even with the low power points left on Flamethrower, we still manage to one-shot both his Magneton and Steelix. His final Pokemon is Bastiodon, who is neutral to fire as he is part rock type. 2 Flamethrowers gets him only down to the red due to his healing with a Citrus Berry after the first Flamethrower. He easily gets us down below half health with Metal Burst. I know he's gonna use a potion, and with only 1 power point on Flamethrower left, I decide to lead with Thunder Punch, as to get him just low enough for our final Flamethrower to take down his Bastiodon and win us our 6th gym badge. I'm not sure how many potions Byron has, or the maximum health at which they get triggered, but I didn't want to risk triggering an extra heal, which is why I decided to lead with Thunder Punch. I actually considered Aerial Ace for literally like 1 second before realizing that would be a horrible idea, since Bastiodon dual resists flying. I know Steel is neutral to electric, and while I know ground negates electric, I was thinking rock resists electric, and luckily it doesn't, because had that Thunder Punch been not very effective, we would have almost certainly not have won that fight on the first try. After a food break, Barry tells us to meet up with him at the library, but first, we go get the HM for strength and teach it to B-Barrel. At the library, there's an earthquake that comes from Lake Veller, so we head there and take on Saturn, who might as well be an ordinary grunt. He has a Toxicroak, but we beat him with little trouble. Then we head to Lake Verity, where we obliterate like probably half of the Team Galactic members. On our way to Snowpoint City, this happens. We pick up the HM for Rock Climb and teach it to our B-Barrel. I'm pretty sure the only reason Bidoof and B-Barrel are in Pokemon at all is for this region's reliance on HMs. Reaching Candace's Ice Gym, we managed to avoid almost every trainer this time, only battling 2 or 3. Knowing that we're Fire type, you might think this fight against Candace is going to be pretty easy, but it ends up being a lot closer than you might think. Only because her Sneasel and Frostlass outspeed us. We do manage to one-shot all of her Pokemon, but if Sneasel had done a bit more damage to us, or we would have missed Flamethrower on Frostlass because of Snowcloak, this gym could have taken a couple more attempts. It still wouldn't have taken too many more attempts, granted, but regardless, it's on to Lake Acuity to help Barry, except he doesn't need help because he's already lost, so we head back to Veilstone where Looker and we invade Team Galactic. Having our second battle with Cyrus, he is actually a little bit more of an issue than before. He still isn't too difficult, but we faint once due to us not knocking out Crobat in 1 hit. And he 2-shots us with Poison Fang, so that was a pleasant surprise. Obviously, we just set up a Swords Dance on Sneasel next time, and easily one-shot both Crobat and Honchkrow. We set free Mesprit, Alzelf, and Uxie, and wander around like a fool for a little while before figuring out where to go. I know we're supposed to go to Mount Coronet, but I forget there's a different cave that also counts as Mount Coronet. But we finally make it to Spear Pillar, where there's a double battle that we're actually required to do this time. I actually got our Bidoof, B-Barrel, and Staravia knocked out right before doing it, just for the Galactic Goons to say that we need at least 1 other Pokemon, so I revive Bidoof and have Chimchar knock him out, deciding that's probably the fairest thing I can do. Unfortunately, wasting a turn like this also makes this battle harder than it needs to be, but we get pretty lucky on the second try with Krogunk missing a Mud Bomb. Stunky uses Toxic, which has me worried, but we manage to go through a few enough turns that we win. I was really worried that this battle was going to take many more attempts than it did. Next up is another double battle, but this time it's with Barry, so we fortunately don't have to waste a turn knocking out one of our Pokemon. We lose on the first attempt though due to hitting ourselves in confusion twice. I'm also worried this battle will take a while, but if we can manage to not hit ourselves too many times in confusion, it might not take too many attempts. The second attempt almost goes really well as we get 3 Swords Dance set up practically for free, but the 2 times we get hit are both crits, so we get knocked out. Third time again almost goes great as we manage to dodge 3 Rock Slides and not get crit on with Slash. We take out most of their Pokemon, but even with 3 Swords Dances, we can't quite take out Skuntank, and we're finished off by Poison Jab. Fourth attempt, and I think I've come up with a solid strategy. 3 Swords Dances, take out the left Bronzor, Flamethrower Skuntank, and then take Skuntank out with Thunder Punch. The only issue is, again, that we can't hit ourselves in confusion. But if we can defeat Skuntank and avoid any confusion damage, we should be able to take out the Bronzor on the right and then finish off the rest of their team without too much issue. The very next attempt, the strategy gets thrown off, seemingly for the better. We get so close. Golbat gets sent out instead of Skuntank after we take out the left Bronzor, so we take out the right Bronzor next to avoid getting confused. We one-shot Perugly with Thunder Punch, Golbat gets sent out, we take out the Golbat on the left because I want to go ahead and get Skuntank out of the way, and we one-shot it with Thunder Punch because Reflect isn't up anymore. Then this happens. So close. On the 8th attempt, this is the attempt for which I have the least hope, because as you can see, we go for a Thunder Punch on the right Bronzor because I want to try to take out the Perugly and Golbat, and then deal with the Skuntank and Golbat. But we only get the Bronzor half health, so I just set up 3 Swords Dances and take out the Bronzor on the left. That's when Munchlax gets a critical hit, taking out the Bronzor on the right, and the worst happens. Skuntank and Perugly both get sent into battle. Why? The rest of the battle is honestly a blur, because I had little hope for this attempt, so I have to look back at the footage. It seems that the Golbat on the right decides to go for a Confuse Ray on Staraptor, but she could have done anything to Staraptor as long as she doesn't hit us, because pretty much any extra damage would not have allowed us to live the critical Air Cutter, allowing us to take out the final Golbat and win the battle. Wow, I'd love to be excited or something, but I just think it's funny because I was hardly paying attention, just wanting to move on to the next attempt, when this turned out to be the winning attempt. As a kid, I thought that Cyrus intentionally summons Giratina, so playing through Platinum again, it makes a lot more sense that he actually just kind of gets abducted by Giratina. That scene is still pretty intense to me though. Now Cynthia wants us to help save the world from being eaten by a black hole, but I need to sleep, so let's just hope the world is still okay when I wake up. 3 days later, and we arrive at the Distortion World. As cool as I still find this world, it is a bit of a pain to find your way through. I somehow managed to accidentally mess up the boulder puzzle on the last boulder, and then proceeded to hop over the ledge of the platform that leads us back down, so I had to go down that long waterfall a total of 3 times before making it to Cyrus. Sometimes I wonder how I managed to simply pour myself a bowl of cereal without burning the house down. Anyways, on the first attempt at Cyrus, we preemptively set up a Swords Dance, figuring we'll probably need it for Cyrus's other Pokemon, but we unfortunately aren't quite able to one-shot Houndoom even with a Swords Dance, so we go down in 2 Dark Pulses. On the second attempt, I decide we should just go for it without trying to set up a Swords Dance, and as it turns out, I was right to assume we would need a setup, as we fail to take out his Gyarados in 1 hit due to Intimidate, and we go down to an Earthquake. I'm assuming our best chance is hitting Houndoom with a Thunder Punch and having him fully paralyzed on the next turn as we set up a Swords Dance. On the third attempt, we get a critical Thunder Punch on Houndoom, making it to Gyarados with full health. Despite him having Earthquake, I decide to risk a Swords Dance, and we manage to live Earthquake on 9 HP. We one-shot both Gyarados and Honchkrow, but with such low HP, Weavile easily knocks us with a Fake Out. So, it seems as if we're gonna have to set up a Swords Dance on Houndoom. On the very next attempt, we get exactly what I was hoping. We hit Houndoom with Thunder Punch, and it paralyzes him. He still hits us with a Dark Pulse, but he's fully paralyzed on the next turn, leaving us to set up a free Sword Stance. With that, we take down Houndoom, one-shot Gyarados and Honchkrow, but upon reaching Weavile, we're still too low of health to survive a non-critical Night Slash from Weavile, so we're gonna have to somehow make it out of the Houndoom battle with full health. I'm guessing 2 rounds of full paralysis is our best bet. Several attempts later, and I decide we should test out Sword Stance, then Thunder Punch again, just to see if we got a low roll the first time, and it turns out we can one-shot Houndoom. So I decide to check Weavile's moves to see if there's any chance it won't use Night Slash on us, and basically, no. The other moves it knows are weak against fire types, and even if it does use Fake Out, it'll just Night Slash right after anyways, so I decide to give it a few more attempts, and then it's off to grinding levels. Upon reaching level 68, I decide to show off Chimchar's stats versus Infernape's stats. As you can see, the Infernape stat gains are very significant, especially in speed. Speaking of which, our goal is to be faster than Weavile and hopefully have enough health to tank a hit from Crobat. We're gonna try at level 68, and then I'll use 2 rare candies and hope we don't need to be higher than level 70. But first, we have to make it back to Cyrus. While that's happening, I'd like to take a moment to remind you to leave a like if you're enjoying the video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Also, feel free to leave a comment flaming me for being bad at Pokemon, to let me know what you think of the video, or just to say hi. First attempt on return, and we still don't outspeed Weavile. But we do have 2 rare candies, so we can try at level 70 after a few more attempts. While we don't outspeed Weavile yet, it becomes apparent that we are at least getting close to arriving with enough health to potentially survive a Night Slash, because Weavile is now starting with Fake Out instead of just going straight for Night Slash. So we go ahead and use our 2 rare candies to see if that makes our chances any better. First level 70 attempt, and I'm hoping we can manage a speed tie with Weavile, because while we're now able to live a Fake Out Night Slash combo from Weavile, it's obvious that we're still going to need a good amount of health to beat Crobat. But as things stand, we still can't outspeed Weavile, and we're not going to be able to win like this. So I come up with a plan, but it involves the move tutor, so you know what that means. I am not looking forward to grinding for more blue shards. I'm not going to reveal my full plan just yet, but know that we need 6 blue shards and 2 yellow shards. We currently have 0 blue shards and 2 yellow shards. Kill me. Luckily, we are able to get the blue shards from the overworld this time. We get a lucky one from the guy in the marsh, we get another one in the marsh, we catch a Quagsire for Flash, and accidentally catch another one and release it, and get another blue shard from Wayward Cave. We get 2 from Mount Coronet, and our 6th and final one from Fuego Ironworks, which takes me a while to find because I don't think I've ever been there, but I learned that we can get more blue shards there in exchange for star pieces in the future if we ever need more blue shards again. Now that we've arrived at the move tutor, I can explain that master plan. Basically, I'm just going to replace Aerial Ace with Sucker Punch, since Sucker Punch is priority, not to mention that Aerial Ace doesn't really add much coverage over Flamethrower. Reaching the move tutor though, I realized Chimchar can't learn Sucker Punch. He can learn Vacuum Wave, but it only has 40 power, and it's a special move, so Sword Stance won't affect it. Luckily, Weavile has a dual weakness to fighting, so there's a chance this'll work, as long as Crobat can't take us out in one hit afterwards. Weavile manages to live a Vacuum Wave, but it's low enough health that I think with just a couple more levels, we can one-shot Weavile, but we'll keep trying for a few more attempts in the event that we get a critical hit. After several more attempts, I call it quits on level 70. I decide we'll grind to level 75, since even if we still can't outspeed Weavile, that should give us enough special attack to hopefully knock it out with 1 Vacuum Wave. Now level 75, I decide to use Flamethrower just to see if we outspeed Weavile, and even with 27 levels up, we still don't outspeed. That's crazy. Anyways, trying again, We managed to get Weavile to what I'm assuming is 5 HP or less with one Vacuum Wave, so I'm really hoping that's a low roll, because if not, we'll have to grind probably 2 more levels. Thankfully, finally, after 43 total attempts, we managed to not get a low roll, knocking out Weavile in one hit, making it to Crobat on 85 HP, living across poison, and knocking him out, winning us the final Cyrus battle. I decide we'll try to actually fight Giratina just for fun, and surprisingly, we actually managed to beat it. We live a Shadow Force and Ancient Power, leaving us low enough for Blaze to activate, enabling us to take it out. Now it's off to the final gym, where Volkner's Jolteon leads with Thunder Wave, after we just barely failed to one-shot him. So after 5 attempts, in the interest of having this gym not take an unreasonable amount of time, I decide we'll just go get Chimchar down low enough where his Blaze will activate, because I'm pretty sure we outspeed all of his Pokemon. And sure enough, on the very next attempt, we actually still lose because Cook is just short of being 1/3 HP. Whoops. On the next attempt though, we easily sweep all of his Pokemon, earning us our 8th and final gym badge. Now it's off to the Pokemon League. I think we can beat all of the Elite Four, but I'm not entirely sure we can beat Cynthia without a held item, and if we can, I'm almost certain we'll need to be level 100. I'm mostly worried about her Garchomp, but Dig might be able to take care of it, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to get started. So we teach Waterfall to B-Barrel and head on to the Pokemon League. Before starting the Elite Four, we buy some full restores and full heals before using our 2 PowerPoint ups on Flamethrower. Also, Barry arrives for one last battle, where he crits on us with a close combat from his Staraptor, leaving us on 23 HP. But we do get in a Swords Dance, sweeping his Staraptor, and sweeping both his Empoleon and Snorlax with crits in a row. I don't know if it matters for Empoleon, but I'm pretty sure it matters for Snorlax. Unfortunately, we fail to sweep Rapidash. It lives on very low HP and takes us out with Fire Blast. On the second attempt, we set up 2 Swords Dances, risking the low health in favor of potentially one-shotting Snorlax. But as it turns out, he manages to live in red health even with 2 Swords Dances, which means we can probably only afford to use 1 Swords Dance. On the third attempt, Snorlax uses Earthquake on us, knocking us out from 101 HP. So he's either gonna have to use a different move, we're gonna have to have him get fully paralyzed, or we're gonna have to crit, or grind obviously. I also turn on the battle animations because I turned them off in Victory Road, and forgot to re-enable them for 3 berry fights. On our 11th attempt, I decide to see how far we can make it without setting up Swords Dance. We get pretty far and almost win, but just barely fail to take out Rapidash. On the 12th attempt, I decide to try Flamethrower on Rapidash, just to see if it has Flash Fire or not, and it turns out it doesn't, which means we could have won on the 11th attempt. But at least we know now. After 20 attempts, it's off to grinding. We only need a few levels to be able to one-shot Snorlax with 2 Swords Dances, but then we have to deal with Rapidash. Before we do that though, I had an idea while I wasn't playing, so I want to try that first before we resort to grinding. I consider teaching Dig to Chimchar, since it's a bit higher power than Thunder Punch, so 2 Sword Dances should allow us to sweep both Snorlax, Rapidash, and Barry's final Pokemon Roserade. But there's no other way to teach Dig to Chimchar other than that 1 TM, so I want to save Dig until we absolutely need to use it over Flamethrower. I do have another idea though. So we head off to the Move Relearner in Pastoria City, where we replace Swords Dance with Nasty Plot and head back to the Pokemon League, taking on Barry once again. We start off by setting up 2 Nasty Plots, since it doesn't seem as if any of Barry's Pokemon have priority moves, so I think we're safe to be down in red health. Not to mention that Blaze will be activated, meaning that as long as none of his Pokemon outspeed us, we should easily sweep through his whole team. And to probably no one's surprise, we do. I decide we'll stick with Nasty Plot for the time being, until it seems as if we need Swords Dance or some other move, but for now, it's finally time to heal up and take on the Elite Four. First up is Aaron.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron? Because it's pronounced Aaron?
Who uses Bug-type Pokemon. So as you'd probably expect, we sweep all of his Pokemon. Except for Drapion, who we take down with 2 flamethrowers. He does land a critical cross poison on us though, so we do end up needing to heal after the battle. But other than that, no worries. Next up is Bertha, and considering all her Pokemon resist fire, I'm a bit worried. So we set up a nasty plot on her Whiscash, who uses Earth Power, bringing us low enough to activate Blaze. So even though her Pokemon do resist, we still sweep most of her team, except for Rhyperior, who lives in the red health. We might need to use Dig, but even that is a little worrying, because we can still be hit with a few moves while underground that her Pokemon are likely to have. Not to mention that whatever move we replace with Dig, we have to stick with for 2 other Elite Four members, and Cynthia, since even if we black out and go replace Dig with something else, we'll still need Dig again to get past Bertha, so I decide we'll just grind some more attempts before grinding levels. On the second attempt, we don't knock out Golem in one hit this time, which means either we got a crit the first time and I wasn't looking, or we got a high roll. On the fourth attempt, I decide to try out Vacuum Wave. I'm not expecting much, and it doesn't even get Golem down to red HP. On the very next attempt, we almost get lucky, managing to get off 2 nasty plots since Whiscash uses Sandstorm first round, but in the end, we go down to Sandstorm damage. Sixth attempt. Whiscash misses an Aqua Tail. We get 2 nasty plots set up, and finally sweep Bertha's whole team, leading us on to Flint. But with Chimchar on very low HP, and our self-imposed healing restriction, this is definitely going to be rough. But I decide we'll give it a few tries before resorting to Dig. After 3 attempts, and all our moves bringing his first Pokemon Houndoom down to around half HP, I replace Vacuum Wave with Dig, where we're finally able to one-shot Houndoom. But Infernape has Mach Punch, so I decide the best course of action is to reload the save, go grind up to level 100, and beat Bertha by using only 1 nasty plot and sweeping her team with Flamethrower to keep us at full-ish HP, or at least higher than red. I start to go back and grind on unfought trainers, but I decide we can just beat Aaron and a few of Bertha's Pokemon repeatedly. We would lose a lot of money by doing this, but I don't think we'll need it for anything, and I decide to just spend all of it on full restores anyways. In the middle of grinding, I realize we don't need our HM Pokemon anymore, so I deposit those since having them also slows down how quickly we can black out. At level 85, I decide to try Bertha a few more times, once with Dig just to see how it goes since we might need Dig anyways for Flint, but we don't have any better luck, so it's back to grinding. At level 90 while grinding, I decide to try out Vacuum Wave on Golem, and a super effective Vacuum Wave does just a little more damage than a not very effective Flamethrower when we don't have Blaze active. So my hopes are up that we can beat Bertha close to full HP, but we're still gonna make our way to level 100 since we might as well get it out of the way for Cynthia. You know, during all this grinding, I just thought of how much easier Bertha and potentially even Cynthia would be had we not wasted the grass to not TM. Anyways, we're finally at level 100 with these as our final stats. We managed to beat Bertha first try back. Whiscash goes for Sandstorm first turn, we sweep Hippowdon with Flamethrower, sweep Golem with Vacuum Wave, and we get a high roll on Rhyperior. I know it's a high roll because of all the times we made it to Rhyperior during grinding, finally knocking her out in one hit, and finishing off Gliscor with 1 Flamethrower, winning us the battle at almost full health, which is hopefully high enough to win us the Flint duel. First attempt back at Flint, and we set up a nasty plot, sweeping all the way to Flareon. We can't use Flamethrower on Flareon though, since it has the Flash Fire ability, so we go for a Thunder Punch, but it's not quite enough to one-shot, so Flareon takes us out with a Giga Impact. On the very next attempt, Houndoom goes for Sunny Day, leaving us with high enough HP to live a Giga Impact from Flareon, and between Blaze being active, having a nasty plot set up, and Harsh Sunlight, we sweep both Magmortar and Rapidash with Flamethrower, beating Flint, and arriving at Lucian where we can finally heal back to full. First try and he leads with Mr. Mime. We go for a nasty plot, and he goes for a Reflect, so I decide to take him out before he can use Light Screen, and even though I'm a bit worried about Espeon and Alakazam tanking Flamethrower, we managed to sweep through his entire team, winning the battle on the very first attempt. Now, as the game is finally about to end, is also where it's just begun. It's time for Cynthia. On the first try, we set up a nasty plot as Spiritomb goes for a Dark Pulse, bringing us a bit above half health. We proceed to one-shot Spiritomb with Flamethrower, and while we almost one-shot Milotic with a Thunder Punch, we go down to one Surf. I've been expecting Garchomp to be the wall that we can't pass, but if we can't take down Milotic, we won't even make it to Garchomp. Milotic has high special defense, so I'm not expecting Flamethrower to take it down even if we set up 2 nasty plots and have Blaze active, but let's give it a shot anyways. Second attempt, and Spiritomb doesn't even get us low enough to activate Blaze, so we go for a third nasty plot, living on 15 HP, and sweeping not only Milotic, but Garchomp as well. Granted, we get a critical hit, so I don't know if that matters, but we sweep Togekiss, making it to Lucario, but we go down to extreme speed. I was thinking it would use a priority move, but I didn't want to risk Vacuum Wave not knocking it out, so I was just hoping it would go for a different move. The third attempt plays out pretty much the same way. The only differences this time are that we don't crit Garchomp, but as it turns out, the crit doesn't matter, so we make it back to Lucario and go for Vacuum Wave this time, knocking it out in one hit as Cynthia sends out her final Pokemon, Roserade. Am I a joke to you, Cynthia? We obviously take out Roserade with one Flamethrower, winning us the game and the challenge. Wow, that challenge was really fun. During the challenge, I kept track of the total times we fainted, not including grinding on the Elite Four, and I also kept track of any noteworthy battle attempts. Once again, not including the grinding on the Elite Four. Noteworthy being any battle that takes more than 5 attempts. So I find it funny that the only reason Cynthia even made it onto that list is specifically because she's Cynthia. She took less attempts than everyone else on this list, especially some random trainer on Route 215. Speaking of which, here are those attempts, and final total amount of times that Cook fainted. The ones that aren't accounted for are mostly different berry battles, and also I think once to a trainer in Victory Road, once to Maylene, and once to Cyrus or something. Like I said, they only took a few attempts max, so I didn't keep track of them. Anyways, I really didn't think we'd be able to win this challenge, especially on the Elite Four with the rules I said at the beginning. But as I said earlier, Nasty Plot and Flamethrower pretty much carried us, so I'm glad we were able to wait till we got to the Pokemon League before having to rely on it. With that being said, again, if you would leave a like and or subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated, and I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm Brian, aka Pikachu Clone, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.